Okay. Hi, Ivan. Thanks for taking your time to chat with us today, and welcome to the Blockchain podcast.
Great.
I'm really excited to learn more about your journey and the Canton network. So, at first, I know you worked at the top places like the Citadel and the DRW before. So, is it possible for you to share more information about your experience when you work at these two places about crypto? Because the community they feel very interested about these two companies, and why do you leave these top places and to start it create Canton?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. So when I was at Citadel, there was no real crypto. So there, mainly what I was doing is a lot of risk analysis and risk models. But then when I moved to DRW, I was doing algorithmic trading. And at around 2012, one of the partners at DRW started convincing the owner of the company to look into crypto. And at around 2013-14 is when DRW started getting into crypto quite significantly. And I was very fortunate that in addition to doing trading, I got a chance to start their venture investment team. And the thesis of the investment team is we're going to invest in everything that is related to DRW's business. So I got a chance to start looking into Bitcoin pretty early on. I mean, I can tell you we've even led an investment in a company that wanted to allow buying Bitcoins with credit cards in 2013. So it was a pretty good experience meeting a lot of companies back then. And when I started looking into what is the experience trading, for example, equities and other asset classes, and knowing by the time I left trading, we were measuring latency in picoseconds. So just to give you a sense how fast the latency was. But then knowing that it took securities T+3 back then to settle, or that getting to borrow securities was very hard. Already back then in 2013, we started thinking about, well, is there more value to this technology more than just Bitcoin? And that's just kind of like was where some of the ideas started about 12 years ago. And it's really at the end of 2014 that we thought that if you put aside Bitcoin, there's a very, very big opportunity, potentially even bigger than Bitcoin, using the technology. And that's when I decided to leave and start this company.
Yeah. When I read the information about the Canton, I noticed that the privacy and the RWA are the most important part of the Canton. Yeah. So at first, can you introduce something about the real world assets or RWA and its
Sure.
relation with the Canton? Yeah.
Sure. No, it's a great question. And I think that, when you look at the crypto industry for the last 10 years, my view is that Bitcoin is still the only unique asset class. All right. It's an asset class that is trying to become a store of value, call it digital gold, whatever you want to call it. It is a unique asset class. And even in commodities, when you look at it, there's only one gold. There is no, 10,000 types of gold. There's one gold, right? So to me, there's one Bitcoin, and then everything else is really just trying to do something else. And that something else, in my opinion, is RWAs, right? It's making crypto rails become, tomorrow's financial rails. How do we move any type of a real world asset? And that was our thesis already 10 years ago. that if it is about real world assets, well, then what do you need to make it successful? And that's maybe call in kind of like the intersection with privacy, is that our view was if you want to bring real world assets, both for retail and institutional, it's extremely important to have privacy. Like, I'm sure you're a very successful businessman. You don't want the whole world to know everything in your wallet, right? Like, you don't want everybody to know in real time. And you're not different than Citadel. Citadel, their entire IP is what assets they buy and sell. And so for us, real world assets was always the number one opportunity. And in order to make real world assets successful, you need to have privacy on chain. But privacy is also a word that is a bit of a tricky word, because privacy to us is not being able to comply with regulation. So when we say privacy is the ability to have privacy from, other trading firms that should not know about what you do, but if a regulator needed to know kind of what was your activity, they can still see what activity you did.
Got it. Actually, about the RWA, the stablecoin, I think is the first RWA, and it's a very good example, right? And the second one maybe the T-bills, and and now is the stocks, right? So which part did Canton pay more attention on, or will you do all the RWAs?
Yeah. So maybe if we take a step back, I can tell you what we have already today as part of the Canton ecosystem. So we have stable coins, we have US treasuries, we have money market funds, mortgages, life insurance, annuities, commodities, structured products, fixed income, private equity funds, private credit. So maybe the answer is yes, all of the above. I think though, when you look at what assets could get traction very fast, I think that really stable coins and treasuries are the ones that can get the fastest adoption, because it can capture payments, but it can also capture, in derivatives trading, how to manage collateral and be able to, move from cash to yield bearing accounts in real time. So I think that just with those two assets, you can get quite a lot of traction without building something too complicated.
Got it. Actually, most of our audience are from Asia, so we are not very clear about the US regulation. Actually, in Hong Kong, if you want to do any RWA, it's not okay to sell it to the retail. But you also mentioned before your customers are retirees and the institutions. So about Canton and also in the US, can you sell the RWA products to the retirees, or do you have some regulation guidelines?
Yeah. So we created the infrastructure. We don't actually sell ourselves, but I will tell you that on Canton already today, there are multiple DeFi offerings that are for retail. So retail can actually come into Canton and trade real world assets. I think that what we're focused on is how do we bring the best high quality assets into the network. So for example, 2 days ago, we made an announcement with the DTCC in the US after their letter that they received from the SEC, that they selected Canton as the first chain that they're going to bring real world assets on. And that's very exciting, because again, at the end of the day, when you think about what everybody's trying to do with stocks, they're trying to bring stocks, and I think that the DTCC is probably, the entity that can bring stocks to be on chain the fastest, just because they sit on $100 trillion worth of assets. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to partner with the institutional players that can bring the highest quality assets that then can be consumed by retail at the end of the day.
So, in the future, did like crypto investors, retail investors in Asia, they can also buy the tokenized stocks in the Canton?
100%. I mean, we are already now working with a few broker dealers in Korea and in Japan. How do we plug them into the initiative that we're doing with the DTCC? And the goal is to eventually for them to be able to offer it to their clients. So 100%.
Cool. Looking forward. Okay. But I think for the community, we have a concern is that we know the Trump government is very supportive for the crypto, and actually, if you don't do the scan, I think you can do anything. But in the future, if in the future the Trump government is not continued to in the White House, so do you think the regulation will change, and also like the RWA, also the real world assets, these things, the regulation will be worse?
Yeah, I think that's such a good question. Really important question. So maybe something that is important to note: we launched Canton under the Biden administration. We didn't launch Canton under the Trump administration. And I'm not, my reasoning for saying that is because we really wanted to make sure that we have a very long-term success, regardless of the administration. Even though we're very happy with what the current administration is doing, you still, exactly for your point, Colin, you want to make sure that what you do can work with other administrations. And therefore, we launched Canton as, a fair launch. We didn't do any ICO. We didn't have all kinds of lofty grants to the team. I mean, digital asset, as the creators have on their balance sheet, a lot of coins, no different than other people that came in very early on. But I can tell you that me on a personal level did not get any like special grants or my co-founders or things like that. We also wanted to make sure that from a governance perspective, there's really good governance. So the chair of the foundation of Canton is Euroclear and DTCC, which between the two of them, there's $130 trillion worth of assets. Digital asset is just one vote out of the foundation, and in the foundations there are tens of entities now that help the governance. So our view is that if you do things right, you kind of said, like, if you don't scam people and you do things right just because you want to bring financial inclusion and you want to allow people to be able to have good access to financial instruments without doing bad things to them, I think that you will be able to survive through another administration, even if it's the opposite of the Trump administration.
Got it. Yeah. I want to talk more about the tokenized stocks because it's really hot in these days. Actually, about the Kraken, the Xstock, the Robinhood, even the Binance or the Coinbase, they all join the tokenized stocks, and it's really hot. So for the Canton, you tell me you will launch some products later. So how can the products on the Canton different with others?
It's a great question. So what all of these projects around tokenized equities are doing, which again, there's nothing necessarily negative about that, but what you're not actually buying is you're not really buying the equity. You're buying a derivative on that equity, right? And we've seen in crypto great examples of what happens when you trust another intermediary to offer you RWAs. Do you remember Mantra? You remember that protocol?
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, right. Went from 8 billion to zero effectively in real time. And I'm not saying that those would do that, but the problem is what we've wanted to do when we're talking about RWA is that you actually hold the security itself, but you're not holding some derivative of it. So for the most part, all of these projects, you have to trust a third party to be holding those equities in an account somewhere, which you don't get to see, right? And what we're trying to do on Canton is to say that if you have an Apple token, you are recognized by the registry of Apple as an investor in Apple. You're not holding a derivatives. You're actually holding an Apple equity. When you hold a US Treasury on Canton, you actually hold a US Treasury. And that's really the difference. And on top of that, you also get privacy, right? So, I mean, I'm sure you've seen now in crypto news what happens when chains don't have privacy and how retail gets front run by large institutional players. So, you know, our view is that if you can actually put the real security on chain plus privacy, it gives the best effectively user experience and user protection for retail traders.
Yeah. Let's talk more about privacy. Yeah, because for the crypto native community, the things they care most is privacy. And that's the reason why they use DeFi, not the centralized exchanges, right? But for the government and for the regulation, they are not like privacy, right? So how can you balance?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, I would venture to say that there is no privacy today in crypto. And crypto have been very much against privacy for the last 10 years. I would say that most times crypto said that privacy is a bug, not a feature. And you know, I mean, the fact that I don't know that Colin is Colin, but I can see your public wallet and I can see everything in your public wallet, that means that you have no privacy. Just because I don't know that it's you individually does not mean that you have privacy. Because what happens is, as I'm sure you know, when a big account moves BTC into an exchange, what do everybody do? Everybody starts selling BTC before they do, because they know that if you send BTC to an exchange, you're probably about to liquidate it. So there is no privacy in crypto, and there's a lot of front running. And I think what you just saw recently with Pump.Fun is just another example of what happens when you don't have privacy. What are the consequences of that? So for us, privacy, you know, is a core tenet to do things right. Now, what you don't want to happen as a result of having privacy is for regulators to come and say, well, this chain cannot be used because now it's not doing only good things, meaning, let's say, protecting you and me, Colin, from having bad actors front run us and do things like that.
Yeah.
But it also allows bad actors to do crime without being discovered. And that is really the balance that you're trying to find, right? Is how do I give good privacy and not actually also at the same time give capabilities to bad actors that want to take advantage of privacy. And that's why, you know, I make maybe a distinction where I say that there's a difference between privacy and anonymity. Anonymity, in my opinion, is what governments don't like. Governments don't like anonymity, but they don't mind privacy. They actually like privacy. If you look at most regulation over the world, regulation for the most part says that privacy is a good thing. I mean, when you go to your doctor, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of privacy rules about doctors sharing your medical information. So privacy is a good thing. The difference is that you want to have privacy where if a regulator or someone was suspected of wrongdoing, they can then go and audit it, right? It's not that they get visibility in real time, but if they need it, they can have visibility. And that's what Canton allows you to do. It allows you to have the good type of privacy to protect the consumer from bad actors doing something, knowing their assets. but it also allows regulator to audit information, assuming they need to. And we believe that that's the right balance.
Yeah, we cannot give the North Korea the privacy, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Also, I noticed that in the Canton investors, there are so many big banks, and I think it's very rare in the crypto, because in the traditional view, the banks are not they are not friends about with crypto, right? Especially maybe in the Biden administration or in the Asia. So why Canton can have so many bank investors, and do you think these banks still feel hesitant to the crypto?
Yeah. So maybe I'll say something a bit different, and then I'll touch about the banks. I think that there's this notion in crypto that crypto is about removing intermediaries, and I find that technology should remove intermediaries that are not helpful, just generally speaking. But if we think about the crypto ecosystem today is full of intermediaries. You have crypto custodians, you have crypto exchanges, even DeFi labs are intermediaries, meaning if you relied on whatever, I'm just going to make it up, some kind of a DEX to do all of your trading, and tomorrow the DEX decided, oh, we're going to change the code. Now it's going to be something else. There's not a lot of likelihood that people can just pick it up and say, oh, we're going to ignore what you did. We're going to do it different. So I would say that even crypto is full of intermediaries. It's just new intermediaries. And those new intermediaries, guess what? Want to make money. No different than banks and others. So technology doesn't just get rid of intermediaries. Technology should get rid of intermediaries that are not helpful for the world and make things more complicated than they should be. Now, I think that the problem for banks today, beyond just the administration, was that, again, crypto came at it with privacy is bad, permissionless is everything. And even if a bank wanted to operate in that world, they can't. Imagine, I don't know which bank do you bank with? Let's say you use HSBC. Imagine you go to hsbc.com and you can see all the account in HSBC. And you could just open an account at HSBC without having KYC AML. Like, that's just would never happen. That's just the reality.
Yeah,
HSBC is a regulated bank. They cannot have no privacy. They cannot have permissionless offering of their financial products because the regulator will shut them down. So it's not for not wanting to participate in the space. It's for not being able to. And I really just think that what Canton is offering them is the ability to to participate in the space in a way that still meets their obligations to their clients and their regulators. That's really the only difference. I wouldn't say that it's because banks did not want to participate.
Okay. I remember that you said you work for the risk management before. So what do you think about the risk management in crypto? Will you think the crypto startups, the crypto giants, they are not so good in the risk management?
That's a good question. No, it's a funny. I think that crypto, like any other new financial instrument, will have those that are good and those that are bad. And the reality is there are a lot of really good risk managers in crypto. But the problem, Colin, is that when things blow up, you don't hear about them because they were good at their job, right? So if you don't need to have a lot of people that are bad in risk management, you just need to have enough, So I actually think that most of the institutional players in crypto are actually very good at risk management. The problem is you could have, if you remember, during Terra Luna and Three Arrow, you didn't need to have that many players that were bad at risk management. You just need to have a few that put such big position because it was easy to make money when things were going up. But the second, the market turned and started going down, all of those assumptions just blew up, right? And the unfortunate thing is, not unfortunate, maybe just the reality of where we're at. People think that crypto is very, very evolved and very sophisticated. It's not. It's still in the early days of how do you move liquidity and collateral and make sure that you have like really good mechanisms built in. And therefore, when the market turns, it's these handful, 1, 2, 3 players that have been so leveraged on illiquid assets and put other assets as collateral like Bitcoin, that suddenly this thing has this like cascading effect. And, I wouldn't, as they say in the US, I wouldn't throw the baby with the bathwater, meaning I wouldn't just say the whole crypto community is bad at risk management. I would say that there are a bunch of cowboys out there, that think that they're smarter than everybody else. And again, just because of the nature of this industry being still young and still developing, it's really a small number of players that can have this like really big effect on the whole industry.
Got it. So the last question is, can you introduce more about the Canton in the next year, about the roadmap or the most important thing in the next year?
Sure. Maybe what I wanna also share, and I think that this is another important component about Canton is when you look at a lot of the when you look at a lot of the tokenomics of projects, at the end of the day, the people that they reward, right? The people that they are reward are the validators, right? Right. Yeah. When you think about like who makes all the tokenomics on Ethereum, it's the validators. Who makes all the fees on Solana? It's the validators. Yeah. And when you ask yourself, well, who creates all the value on these networks? In my opinion, it's Aave, it's Uniswap, it's all of these protocols, right? They are the ones that generate all the fees on the network, right?
Yeah, the developers.
The developers, exactly. Those that actually invest a lot of time and effort to build these applications and convince users to use those applications. But at the end of the day, they don't actually earn the fees from the success that they bring to the network. And in my opinion, one of the reasons why you've seen so many different companies create their own layer twos is because they're saying like, wait, if I own the clients, if I have the clients, I have the financial product, why am I sending all the fees to someone else? It's like, imagine you have a podcast and you're like, okay, let me just send all of my advertising revenue to someone else. That would make no sense. You're the ones doing all of this recording, all of this work. And I think that was one of the mistakes that a lot of the L1s have done, is they designed the tokenomics to go to the infrastructure providers. And, I think what's unique about Canton is that, kind of similar to how the internet got introduced in the early days of the internet, the hottest companies, the sexiest companies were those that were, selling routers and switches like Cisco. They were very important because the internet wouldn't exist without them. But once the internet existed, nobody cared about those companies anymore. It was, it was Ant Financial. It was, it was Google. It was, it was Tencent. Like the companies that actually owned the client, they became the most successful company. So Canton takes the same view, is that at the end of this year, there's going to be a double halving event. and the infrastructure providers become the smallest part of the tokenomics. And most of the tokenomics gets skewed towards the applications. So if you build a very successful application on Canton, we believe that you deserve most of the economics of the network. To us, that is a critical component. And today you're seeing people that are trying to figure that out because builders are becoming frustrated, right? That, they do all the hard work. And, then they feel like, okay, I have to create my own chain because, all of the L2s can say we're part of Ethereum. But to be honest, the reason that they've created an L2 is because they wanted to take all the fees to themselves rather than to send it somewhere else. So I think that that's an important thing that we've done in Canton and have proven very successful. Specifically, when it comes to what's coming in the next year, listen, our mission is to bring Wall Street on chain, right? It's not to tokenize Wall Street, it's to put Wall Street on chain. And I think that that's a very important distinction. We don't want just to tokenize. We don't want to introduce new intermediaries into the mix, but just be able to put Wall Street on chain. We're gonna, focus on growth of the scaling of the infrastructure, adding, more assets, more DeFi protocols. There's going to be a foundation grant for developers. So if developers want to add features to the network, there will be a place to apply for grants to adding more to the source code, which is very exciting. Listen, I think that for us now, it's all about driving utility. So it's actually showing that, Canton can become, by the end of next year, the #1 chain with on-chain fees. I think we're already at the top 10, but the goal is by next year is to be, top 3, if not #1.
Cool. And I think the real world assets, the Wall Street and the privacy are the most hot things in the next year. And really looking forward, Canton can be a big star in the next year.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you for your time.